Long, long ago, the world looked quite different. Great sheets of ice covered much of the planet. Sea levels were much lower than they are today. This drop in the ocean's water revealed a massive stretch of land. It connected what we now call Siberia with Alaska. This was the Bering Land Bridge. It was a wide, grassy plain, not a narrow strip of ice. Animals like the woolly mammoth and the bison roamed across it. And following these great herds of animals were small groups of people. They were hunters, moving with the seasons and the food sources that sustained them. This migration did not happen all at once, but over thousands of years. These ancient travelers were the very first people to set foot in Alaska. They arrived as early as 10,000 BCE, perhaps even earlier. Life was a constant challenge. They had to find shelter from the biting cold. They needed to hunt successfully to feed their families. They learned to use every part of the animals they caught: meat for food, hides for clothing, bones for tools. Over many generations, these skilled survivors adapted to the harsh but beautiful land. They spread out across the vast territory, settling in different regions and developing unique ways of life suited to their new homes. For thousands of years, Alaska's indigenous peoples lived in isolation from the rest of the world. But in the 18th century, that began to change. Reports of a vast unknown land to the east reached Russian explorers in Siberia. A Danish explorer working for the Russian Navy named Vitus Bering was sent to investigate. His first voyage in 1728 confirmed that Asia and North America were separate continents. But it was his second voyage in 1741 that truly opened the door to Alaska. His ships landed on the Alaskan coast. His crew returned to Russia with the soft, dense fur of the sea otter. The sea otter pelts were called soft gold, prized in China, prized in Europe. The news sparked a frenzy. Russian fur trappers, Promyshleniki, began sailing across the treacherous Bering Sea. They came in small, often poorly built ships. They hunted sea otters. They hunted other fur-bearing animals. They set up small, temporary camps along the coast. They set up camps on the Aleutian Islands. This marked a new, often violent chapter in Alaska's history, driven by global trade and distant wealth. The Russian presence became more permanent. In 1784, Grigory Shelikov founded the first permanent Russian settlement at Three Saints Bay, Kodiak Island. That settlement became a base for the fur trade. In 1799, the Russian-American company was formed to manage the enterprise. Under Alexander Baranov, the company tightened control. By the mid-19th century, Russia's time in Alaska was coming to an end. The sea otter population had been hunted nearly to extinction. The fur trade was no longer profitable. The colony was expensive to maintain and difficult to defend from so far away. Russia, weakened by the Crimean War, feared it might lose Alaska to Great Britain. So the Russian government decided it was best to sell the territory. They began quiet negotiations with the United States. The U.S. was seen as a potential buyer and a less threatening neighbor. In 1867, Secretary of State William H. Seward championed the purchase. He saw Alaska's strategic value, and he believed in America's destiny to expand. After secret talks, he agreed to buy the vast territory for $7.2 million. That amounts to about 2 cents per acre. The treaty was signed. The American flag was raised over Sitka. However, many Americans were not convinced. They saw Alaska as a barren, frozen wasteland. Newspapers mocked the deal, calling it Seward's folly. They also called it Seward's icebox. For a few decades, it seemed the critics might be right. Alaska was largely ignored by the U.S. government, but that all changed in the late 1800s. Gold was discovered. The early 20th century saw Alaska continue to grow, but its status as a territory meant that its residents had limited say in their own affairs. Then, a global conflict reached its shores. During World War II, Seward's strategic hopes became terrifyingly real. In June 1942, Japanese forces attacked Dutch Harbor. They invaded Attu. They invaded Kista. It was the first occupation of American soil since 1812. The nation was stunned. Alaska was deeply affected. The war brought massive change. The U.S. military poured in tens of thousands of soldiers and construction workers. They built the Alaska Highway, a monumental engineering feat. It was completed in just over 8 months. The 1,500-mile road connected Alaska to the U.S. through Canada. It ended Alaska's physical isolation. The war also brought tragedy. Hundreds of Anangan people were forcibly removed from the Aleutians. They were interned in camps in Southeast Alaska, where many died. After the war, many soldiers and workers decided to stay. Alaska's population boomed and ties to the U.S. strengthened. A powerful statehood movement grew. Alaskans demanded equal rights and representation.